My name is Karen, and at 54 years old, I thought I knew what it meant to be a good mother. For 19 years, I raised my son Kyle alone after my divorce, sacrificing everything I had to give him a decent life. I worked double shifts as a nurse, skipped meals so he could eat, and never once complained. But on his 19th birthday, he looked me straight in the eye and said those words that shattered my heart. "You have never done anything for me." I just smiled, because by morning, he would learn exactly how wrong he was. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Have you ever raised an ungrateful child? If you want to see how I taught my son the lesson he desperately needed, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, what happened after that birthday dinner will stay with you forever. Now let me take you back to the beginning of this story. The divorce papers came through in the spring of 2010, when Kyle was only 5 years old. His father, Derek, walked out of our lives with barely a backward glance, leaving me alone in our small apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, with a kindergartner who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. I had to explain over and over that Daddy lived somewhere else now. The confusion in Kyle's eyes broke my heart every single time. Derek promised to send child support. That promise lasted exactly 3 months before the checks stopped coming. I hired a lawyer, but tracking down a man who did not want to be found cost more than I could afford on a nurse's salary. Eventually, I gave up. It was just Kyle and me against the world. I worked at Phoenix General Hospital, usually pulling the night shift because it paid slightly more. Those early years were brutal. I would drop Kyle off at the neighbor's house at 6 in the evening, work until 7 in the morning, pick him up, get him ready for school, catch 3 hours of sleep while he was in class, pick him up again, make dinner, help with homework, put him to bed, and start the whole cycle over. On weekends, I worked double shifts to make up for the bills that kept piling up. Our apartment was tiny, just 2 bedrooms in a complex that had seen better days. The carpet was stained, the walls thin enough that we could hear our neighbors arguing. But it was home. I made sure Kyle had his own room decorated with posters of his favorite superheroes. I slept on a mattress that sagged in the middle, but Kyle never knew. He had new school clothes every year while I wore scrubs that were 5 years old. Those years taught me what sacrifice really meant. I gave up dating because I had no time and no energy for romance. I gave up hobbies, gave up friendships that required more than quick phone calls between shifts. My entire world revolved around making sure Kyle had everything he needed. And for a long time, it felt worth it. Kyle was a sweet kid back then. He would draw me pictures at school, messy crayon drawings of the two of us holding hands under a smiling sun. He would hug me tight when I picked him up and tell me I was the best mom in the world. Those moments made every exhausted, aching muscle worth it. I remember one Christmas when he was 7. Money was especially tight that year because the hospital had cut our hours. I had exactly $40 to spend on gifts. I found a used bicycle at a garage sale for $25, spent an entire weekend cleaning it up and painting it bright red. On Christmas morning, Kyle's face lit up like fireworks. He rode that bike up and down our apartment hallway for hours, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. That sound, that pure joy made me feel like the richest woman alive. But things started changing when Kyle hit his teenage years. 13 seemed to flip a switch in him. Suddenly, our small apartment was not cozy, it was embarrassing. My job was not honorable, it was not good enough. The clothes I bought him from discount stores were not acceptable because they were not brand names his friends wore. He started comparing our life to his friends' lives. Tommy's dad was a lawyer who drove a BMW. Sarah's mom was a doctor who took her to Hawaii every summer. And what was I? Just a nurse who could barely keep up with rent. He never said it out loud at first, but I could see it in his eyes. Disappointment. Shame. By the time Kyle was 15, the complaints became vocal. He wanted expensive sneakers that cost $200. I explained we could not afford them, showed him our budget, tried to make him understand. He rolled his eyes and muttered something about other parents managing just fine. Each comment was a small cut, but I told myself it was just a phase. Teenagers were supposed to rebel, right? When Kyle graduated high school last year, I was so proud. Despite everything, he had maintained decent grades. I had been saving for months, tucking away $5 or $10 whenever I could, dreaming of sending him to community college. The morning after graduation, I sat him down and showed him the bank statement. $1,500. Not much, but enough to get him started. Kyle looked at the number and scoffed. $1,500, Mom, that would not even cover one semester. His tone made it clear he thought I had failed him yet again. I suggested he could work part-time while going to school the way I had done. He said he needed time to figure out what he wanted to do with his life. He wanted to take a gap year. I agreed to the gap year under one condition. Kyle had to get a job. He promised he would start looking right away. That was 12 months ago. In the year that followed, Kyle perfected the art of doing nothing. He slept until noon most days, emerging from his room only to raid the refrigerator or ask if I had done his laundry yet. The few times I pushed him about job hunting, he had a ready list of excuses. The economy was bad. Nobody was hiring. He had applied to 20 places and heard nothing back. It was not his fault. I wanted to believe him. I checked his computer once when he was out with friends and found his browsing history full of video game streams and social media, but no job search sites. When I confronted him, he exploded. He accused me of invading his privacy, of not trusting him. I apologized, even though I knew I had caught him in a lie. I was too tired to fight. The dynamic in our home shifted. Kyle stopped being my son and became more like an entitled roommate who contributed nothing. He used my car without asking, never putting gas in it. He ate food I bought without considering whether we had enough for the week. When I asked him to help with chores, he acted like I was asking him to climb Mount Everest. Taking out the trash was too much effort. Washing a single dish was beneath him. My friends at the hospital noticed the change in me. Patricia, who had been my closest friend for 15 years, pulled me aside one day during our lunch break. "Karen," she said gently, "you are letting that boy walk all over you." I shook my head. He just needs time to find himself. Patricia gave me a look that said she disagreed, but she did not push. Not then. 2 weeks before Kyle's 19th birthday, I worked 4 night shifts in a row to earn extra money. I had a plan. Despite everything, despite his attitude and laziness, he was still my son. I wanted to make his birthday special. Maybe I thought if I showed him how much I loved him, he would remember who we used to be. Maybe he would change. I saved up enough to buy him the wireless headphones he had been hinting about for months. Not the top-of-the-line model that cost $300, but a decent pair for $80. I also planned to bake his favorite chocolate cake from scratch and cook his favorite meal steak with mashed potatoes. It would eat up most of my grocery budget for the month, but I did not care. This was my baby's 19th birthday. The night before his birthday, I stayed up late baking the cake. 3 layers, chocolate frosting, the works. My back ached from standing so long, but seeing that finished cake made me smile. Tomorrow would be good. Tomorrow, Kyle would remember that he was loved. I went to bed around 2 in the morning, setting my alarm for 6. I wanted to have everything perfect before he woke up. Saturday morning arrived with clear Arizona sunshine streaming through my bedroom window. I got up before my alarm, too excited to sleep. By 7 o'clock, I had already mixed the pancake batter, fried the bacon until it was perfectly crispy, and scrambled eggs with cheese the way Kyle liked them. I hung a birthday banner across the kitchen doorway and filled the living room with blue and silver balloons. Our tiny apartment looked festive for the first time in months. Kyle finally emerged from his bedroom at 11:15. He shuffled into the kitchen, wearing the same shirt he had slept in, hair sticking up in every direction, eyes glued to his phone screen. He glanced up briefly at the decorations, then at the breakfast spread on the table. "Oh," he said flatly. "Thanks. Not happy birthday to you too, Mom, or Wow, this looks amazing, or even a genuine smile. Just, oh, thanks. Then he loaded up a plate with 3 pancakes and 4 strips of bacon and trudged back to his room without another word. I stood in the kitchen, spatula still in my hand, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. The pancakes I had made with such care suddenly looked sad on their platter. The bacon glistened with grease that now seemed unappetizing. I had been up since 6 cooking and decorating, and all I got was, oh, thanks. But I swallowed the hurt. He is probably just tired, I told myself. Teenagers sleep late. He will be in a better mood later. I spent the afternoon preparing for dinner. The steaks I had bought were on sale, but still cost me $30 more than I usually spent on meat in a week. I peeled and boiled potatoes, whipped them with butter and cream until they were smooth and rich. I made a salad with fresh vegetables and prepared green beans with almond slivers. The kitchen smelled incredible. At 6 o'clock, I called Kyle down for dinner. He appeared 10 minutes later, still in the same clothes, still holding his phone. I had set the table with our nicest dishes, the ones we only used for special occasions. Candles flickered in the center, casting a warm glow across the food. Kyle sat down and looked at his plate. "Looks okay," he muttered. I forced a smile. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope you like it." We ate in near silence. I tried to make conversation, asking about his plans, his friends, anything to connect with him. His answers were monosyllabic. "Yeah. Nope. Maybe. Whatever." Each word landed like a stone. After we finished eating, I brought out the cake. I had spent an hour on the frosting alone, piping "Happy Birthday, Kyle" in careful letters. I stuck 19 candles into the top and lit them, then carried the cake to the table while singing "Happy Birthday." My voice sounded thin and lonely in our small apartment, but I sang anyway. Kyle blew out the candles without making a wish, or at least without telling me if he did. I cut him a generous slice. He ate 3 bites and pushed it away. "Too sweet," he said. Then came the moment I had been anticipating all week. I handed him the wrapped box containing the wireless headphones. His face showed a flicker of interest as he tore off the paper. He opened the box, pulled out the headphones, and examined them. His expression shifted from interest to disappointment in seconds. "It is not the brand I wanted," he said, not even looking at me. I felt my throat tighten. "What do you mean?" "You said you wanted wireless headphones." "These are wireless headphones." "Yeah, but this is a cheap brand. My friends have the expensive ones, the ones that actually work." "Kyle, I worked extra shifts to buy those. They have excellent reviews. I researched them for hours." He set them down on the table like they were contaminated. "You should have gotten the good ones. These are basically garbage." Something inside me cracked, but I kept my voice steady. "I cannot afford the $300 headphones, Kyle. You know that?" "Then you should not have bothered." Those 5 words hung in the air between us. I had spent 2 weeks working double shifts, exhausting myself, skipping meals, all to buy him a gift he now called garbage. And I should not have bothered. I needed to talk to him. Really talk, not just let this slide like I had been doing for months. After he dismissed the gift, after he reduced my effort to nothing, I could not stay quiet anymore. Kyle stood up from the table, ready to retreat to his room as always. I stopped him with a gentle hand on his arm. "Kyle, can we talk for a minute? Please." He sighed dramatically, the kind of long-suffering sigh that suggested I was asking him to move mountains. "Fine, but make it quick." He dropped back into his chair like a prisoner resigned to interrogation. I sat down across from him, choosing my words carefully. "Kyle, I know this past year has been hard for you. I understand you are trying to figure out your life, but I think it is time we talked about your plans. Real plans." He crossed his arms. "What about them?" "Well, you have been home for a year now. You said you were going to find a job, but that has not happened. Maybe we could look at options together. I could help you with your resume, or we could look at community college classes starting in the fall." I am figuring things out, he said, his voice taking on an edge. You would not understand. Help me understand then. Talk to me. He stared at his phone instead of at me. There is nothing to talk about. I will get a job when I'm ready. Kyle, you cannot just stay home playing video games forever. I work hard to keep this place to put food on the table. I need you to start contributing or at least working towards something. His jaw tightened. Contributing. You mean money, I mean responsibility. You are 19 years old now. You need to start taking care of yourself at least partially. I cannot do everything for you forever. He slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. What do you mean you cannot take care of me forever? You are my mother. That is literally your job. Kyle, that is not how this works. My job was to raise you to get you to adulthood. You are an adult now. You need to start acting like one. His face flushed red. So what, you are kicking me out? On my birthday? No, I am not kicking you out. I am asking you to step up, get a job, help around the house, show some responsibility. He stood up so fast, his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Responsibility. What about your responsibility? You are supposed to provide for me. I have been providing for you for 19 years. I said, my voice rising, despite my best efforts to stay calm. Every single day, Kyle. Every meal, every bill, every piece of clothing on your back. No, he said, pointing his finger at me. No, you have not. I stared at him confused. What are you talking about? His eyes were cold, colder than I had ever seen them. You heard me. You have never done anything for me. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually gasped. Kyle, how can you say that? But he was on a roll now, years of resentment apparently stored up and ready to explode. You want to know the truth? Fine, let me tell you the truth. You never bought me the things I actually wanted, never took me on vacations like other families. We live in this pathetic little apartment while my friends' families have actual houses. You work as a nurse making what, barely $40,000 a year. My friends' parents are doctors, lawyers, engineers. They have money. They have nice things. And what are you? Nothing. Each word was a knife twisting deeper. I tried to speak, but my voice came out as a whisper. Kyle, I worked 2 jobs to feed you. I gave up everything I had. He laughed, a harsh sound that did not match the boy I had raised. Sacrifice? Is that what you call it? You did the bare minimum. That is what parents are supposed to do. You do not get a medal for doing your basic job. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I could not stop them. Kyle, please. You do not mean this. I mean every word. You know what Dad said when he left? He said you were boring. He said you never did anything fun, that all you cared about was working and complaining about money. And you know what? He was right. The mention of Derek, the man who abandoned us, who left me to raise our son alone, who never sent a dime after those first 3 months, that broke something fundamental inside me. Derek left us. I said, my voice shaking. He left you. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who got up every single day and went to work so you could have a roof over your head and food in your belly. Kyle shrugged. Maybe he left because you were not worth staying for. The silence that followed was absolute. Kyle stared at me with defiance mixed with something else, something that looked almost like satisfaction at having wounded me so deeply. I stared back at this stranger wearing my son's face. You have never done anything for me, he repeated slowly, making sure I heard every word. And I am tired of pretending to be grateful for nothing. He turned and walked to his room. I heard the door slam. I stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of the birthday dinner I had spent days planning. The candles had burned down to stubs. The cake sat half-eaten. The headphones I had worked so hard to buy lay abandoned on the table like trash. I looked around at everything I had done that day. The decorations I had hung at dawn. The breakfast I had made from scratch. The expensive dinner I had cooked. The gift I had researched and saved for. And according to my son, none of it mattered. I had never done anything for him. I sat down at the table and let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then I stopped. Something had changed inside me during that confrontation. The hurt was still there, deep and throbbing, but it was joined by something else. Clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. Kyle wanted to know what life was like when I did nothing for him. Fine. He was about to find out. I did not sleep that night. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows shift as cars passed on the street below. My mind was spinning, but not with hurt anymore, with planning. For 19 years, I had given Kyle everything. I had worked myself to exhaustion, sacrificed my health, my social life, any chance at happiness of my own. And he thought I had done nothing. He had no idea what nothing actually looked like, but he was going to learn. Around 3 a.m, I got up and went to my closet. I pulled out my small suitcase and started packing. A week's worth of clothes, toiletries, my medications. I moved quietly, even though Kyle's room was on the other side of the apartment, and he slept like the dead. Old habits. Next, I went to the kitchen. I gathered all the cash from my emergency envelope in the drawer. $320. Not much, but enough. I took my credit card and debit card from my wallet. Then I did something that felt almost cruel, but absolutely necessary. I cleaned out the refrigerator. I packed all the fresh food into grocery bags. The milk, the eggs, the cheese, the sandwich meat, the fresh vegetables. I left only what could not be easily eaten condiments, a jar of pickles, some expired salad dressing in the back. In the freezer, I left 3 frozen dinners, the kind that tasted like cardboard. In the pantry, I left a few cans of soup and a box of stale crackers. Then I went to the laundry room and gathered all my clothes from the hamper. Kyle's dirty clothes could stay where they were, piled in a mountain beside his bed where they had been sitting for 2 weeks. By 5 a.m, everything was ready. My suitcase sat by the door. The grocery bags full of food were in the car. I had one more thing to do. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a note. I kept it short. Kyle, you said I have never done anything for you. So I am giving you what you want, nothing. Figure it out yourself. Mom. I placed the note in the center of the kitchen table, where he would see it when he eventually woke up. Then I took one last look around the apartment. This place had been our home for 14 years. Every corner held a memory. Kyle's height marks on the doorframe. The scuff on the wall from when he crashed his bike inside on a rainy day. The window where we used to watch thunderstorms together. But those were memories of a different child. The boy who lived here now did not appreciate any of it. I picked up my suitcase, grabbed my purse and the car keys, and walked out. The door clicked shut behind me with a finality that felt both terrifying and liberating. I loaded my suitcase into my 12-year-old Honda and sat in the driver's seat for a moment. The sun was just starting to lighten the eastern sky, painting it in shades of pink and orange. A new day, a new lesson. I pulled out my phone and called Patricia. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice thick with sleep. Karen, what is wrong? It is 5 a.m. Patricia, I need a favor. Can I stay with you for a few days? She was immediately alert. Of course. What happened? I will explain when I get there. I am on my way now. The drive to Patricia's house in Scottsdale took 45 minutes in the early morning traffic. She lived in a small house she had bought 5 years ago. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. She was waiting at the door when I pulled up, already dressed, a cup of coffee in her hand. But the mother in me The part that had spent 19 years putting Kyle's needs above my own felt like I was abandoning him. Patricia seemed to read my mind. You are not abandoning him. You are teaching him. There is a difference. Now, how long are you planning to stay away? I do not know. As long as it takes, I guess. Patricia nodded. Well, you are welcome here, as long as you need. I have got a guest room that barely gets used. Make yourself at home. Before I settled in, I had one more call to make. I dialed my landlord, Mrs. Chen, who had become a friend over the years. I explained the situation and asked her for a favor. She agreed immediately. Later that morning, Mrs. Chen would call Kyle and inform him that I had shorted the rent payment this month by $300, and he needed to come up with it by Friday, or face eviction. It was not true I had paid the full rent on time as always, but Kyle did not know that. Mrs. Chen was happy to help teach him a lesson. With everything arranged, I turned off my phone completely. I did not want to be tempted to check messages or answer calls. This needed to be total. Kyle needed to feel what it was like when I was truly not there. Patricia made breakfast, actual breakfast with French toast and fresh fruit, and we ate together on her back patio. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. The guilt was still there, gnawing at me, but underneath, it was a quiet strength. I was doing the right thing. I had to believe that. Back at the apartment, Kyle slept through the morning, as always. He did not wake until almost noon, emerging from his room, with his phone in hand, ready for another day of doing absolutely nothing. He wandered into the kitchen, probably expecting to find lunch already prepared, or at least materials to make something. Instead, he found an empty refrigerator. He stood there with the door open, staring at the bare shelves. A jar of pickles, some ketchup packets, a stick of butter. That was it. Confused, he turned to the pantry, also nearly empty. A can of chicken noodle soup, another can of tomato soup, a box of crackers that had been opened so long they were probably stale. He checked the freezer and found 3 frozen dinners, the cheap kind that cost $1 each at the grocery store. Mom must have forgotten to go shopping, he probably thought. He pulled out his phone to call me and realized he had no idea where I was. Come to think of it, he had not seen me that morning at all. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. He walked through the living room and noticed my bedroom door was open. He glanced inside. The bed was made, which was unusual, since I often worked nights and slept during the day. He went in further and saw my closet door ajar. Some of my clothes were missing. A small thread of worry started to form. He went back to the kitchen and saw the note on the table. He picked it up and read it once, then twice, then a third time. Kyle, you said I have never done anything for you, so I am giving you what you want, nothing. Figure it out yourself. Mom. What the hell, he said out loud to the empty apartment. He tried calling me. The phone went straight to voicemail. He called again. Same result. He sent a text, Mom, where are you? This is not funny. No response. He went to the front window and looked out at the parking lot. My car was gone. I had taken the car. His confusion turned into something approaching panic. He tried calling again. Voicemail. Kyle stood in the living room, the note still in his hand, trying to process what was happening. His mother had left. Actually left. Taken her clothes, taken the car, taken the food, and left him alone. For the first time in a very long time, Kyle had to think about what to do next, and he had absolutely no idea where to start. His stomach growled. He went back to the kitchen and opened the can of chicken noodle soup. He had never actually used the can opener before. I always did it. He fumbled with it for several minutes, nearly cutting himself before finally managing to get the can open. He poured the soup into a bowl and put it in the microwave. The soup was watery and bland. He ate it standing at the counter alone, the silence of the apartment pressing in on him. He kept checking his phone, waiting for me to call or text and tell him this was just a scare tactic that I was coming home. But the phone stayed silent. By evening, Kyle had gone through both cans of soup and one frozen dinner. The frozen dinner was supposed to be chicken teriyaki, but tasted like salty rubber. He threw half of it away. He was still hungry, but there was nothing else to eat unless he wanted crackers and pickles. He checked his wallet. $15.37. He had not thought about money in months because he never needed any. I paid for everything. Food just appeared in the refrigerator. Clean clothes appeared in his drawer. Bills got paid by magic, or so it seemed, because he never had to think about them. Now he did. The realization started to creep in slow and uncomfortable. He was alone. Actually alone. And he had no idea how to take care of himself. He tried calling me again. Voicemail again. That night, Kyle ate stale crackers for dinner and went to bed hungry for the first time in his life. Kyle woke up Monday morning to an empty apartment and an emptier stomach. The reality of his situation was starting to sink in. No food, no money, no car, no mom. He got up and searched the kitchen cabinets more thoroughly, hoping to find something he had missed. He found a jar of peanut butter in the back of one cabinet about a quarter full. He ate it with the stale crackers standing at the counter, the silence of the apartment ringing in his ears. Around 10 in the morning, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered hopefully. "Hello, is this Kyle Thompson?" a woman's voice asked. "Yeah, who is this?" "This is Mrs. Chen, your landlord. Is your mother available?" No. She is not here right now." "I see. Well, I need to speak with one of you about the rent. Your mother's payment this month was short by $300. I need that amount by this Friday, or I will have to begin eviction proceedings." Kyle's stomach dropped. "What?" "No, there must be some mistake. My mom always pays rent on time. Not this month. I need $300 by Friday. Can you handle that, or should I wait to speak with your mother?" I will take care of it," Kyle said, having no idea how he would possibly do that. "Good. Friday, 5 o'clock at the latest." Mrs. Chen hung up. Kyle stared at his phone. $300. By Friday. That was 4 days away. He had $15 to his name and no job. He tried calling me again. Voicemail. "Mom," he said after the beep, his voice tight with stress. The landlord called. "She says we owe $300 for rent. I do not know what is going on, but you need to call me back. This is serious." No response came. Kyle looked around the apartment with new eyes. This place cost money. Real money. Every month. And it had to be paid whether there was food in the fridge or not, whether the electricity stayed on or not. For the first time, he understood that keeping a roof over his head was not automatic. Someone had to pay for it. I had been paying for it, alone, for 14 years. But understanding and solving the problem were two different things. He needed $300, and he had no way to get it. He thought about his friends. Austin was his best friend. Maybe Austin would lend him money. He called Austin. The conversation did not go as planned. "Dude, get a job," Austin said, not unkindly, but firmly. "I lent you $20 last month and you never paid me back. I cannot keep giving you money. I will pay you back this time, I promise. That is what you said last time. Look, man, I am your friend, but you have been bumming around for a year. At some point, you have got to take care of yourself." Kyle hung up, feeling a mix of anger and shame. He tried 2 other friends. Both said variations of the same thing. He was on his own. By Tuesday afternoon, Kyle had eaten the last frozen dinner and the last of the peanut butter. He was officially out of food. His $15 would not buy enough groceries to last more than a day or two, and he still needed to figure out the rent situation. He decided to walk to the fast food restaurant 2 miles away to ask about a job. It was April in Phoenix, which meant it was already pushing 90 degrees. Kyle did not usually walk anywhere. I always drove him. He did not realize how far 2 miles actually was until he was halfway there, sweating through his shirt, his feet hurting in shoes that were not meant for walking. The restaurant manager looked at him with barely concealed skepticism. "You want to apply for a position?" "Yeah," Kyle said, trying to sound confident. "I am a hard worker. Do you have any job experience?" Kyle hesitated. Not exactly, but I learn fast." The manager handed him a flyer. "Apply online. We will call you if we want to interview you." "How long does that usually take?" "Could be a few days, could be a few weeks. We get a lot of applications." Kyle walked back home defeated. Even if they called him for an interview, even if they hired him, he would not get paid in time to make Friday's rent deadline. He was in trouble, real trouble. Wednesday came with no food and growing desperation. Kyle's stomach hurt from hunger. He had never experienced true hunger before, the kind that made you weak and shaky and unable to think about anything else. He drank water from the tap to try to fill his stomach, but it did not help. He looked at the apartment with new awareness. Dirty dishes piled in the sink because he did not wash them after eating his meager meals. The trash overflowed because he had not taken it out in days. The bathroom was a mess. Dirty clothes covered his bedroom floor. All things I used to handle. All things he never even noticed were being done. Until now. He tried to do the dishes, but could not figure out how to work the dishwasher. He tried to hand wash them, but the grease would not come off without hot water and dish soap, and he was not sure how much soap to use. He ended up with a sink full of greasy water and still dirty dishes. He needed to do laundry, but he had never run the washing machine before. He stared at all the buttons and settings. Which one did you use for regular clothes? How much detergent? Was that detergent or fabric softener in the bottle? These were things a 19-year-old should know, should have learned years ago. But he had never needed to learn because I did everything. Wednesday evening, Kyle sat on the couch in the growing darkness because he did not know how to pay the electric bill and was terrified it would get shut off. He finally broke down and sent me a long text message. "Mom, I am so sorry. I was wrong. You have done everything for me. I see that now. Please, come home. I need you. I am sorry for what I said. Please forgive me." He sent it and waited phone in hand, praying for a response. None came. Kyle put his head in his hands and cried. Really cried, the kind of crying that comes from deep shame and regret. He thought about his birthday dinner, about the meal I had cooked, about the gift I had bought with money I did not have. He thought about how he had called it cheap, how he had told me I never did anything for him. He thought about every meal I had cooked that he barely touched. Every time I washed his clothes and he left them in a pile. Every bill I paid while he played video games. Every shift I worked while he slept. You have never done anything for me. Those words haunted him now. How could he have said something so monumentally false? I had done everything. Literally everything. And he had never once said thank you. He curled up on the couch, hungry and alone, and finally understood what I had been trying to teach him. Life without me was not freedom. It was chaos. It was hunger and dirty dishes and unpaid bills and loneliness. He fell asleep on the couch that night, his stomach empty, his heart heavy with regret, wondering if I would ever come back. Thursday morning, I sat at Patricia's kitchen table drinking coffee and reading the text messages Kyle had sent. Patricia stood behind me reading over my shoulder. "He is learning," she said quietly. "I know," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. The mother in me wanted to rush home immediately, wanted to cook him a meal and hold him and tell him everything was okay. But the rest of me, the part that had been teaching and sacrificing and loving for 19 years, with no appreciation, knew I needed to wait just a little longer. "One more day," Patricia said, as if reading my mind. "Let it really sink in." I nodded, even though every fiber of my being wanted to go home. I thought about Kyle hungry and scared and alone, but I also thought about who he would become if he did not learn this lesson now. Would he be a man who appreciated the people who loved him? Or would he be a man like Derek, taking and taking until there was nothing left to give? I finished my coffee and made my decision. Tomorrow morning, I would go home. But not until then. That afternoon, Mrs. Chen called to check in. "Has he called about the rent?" I asked. She laughed. "Oh yes, 3 times. Poor kid is beside himself. I almost feel bad lying to him." Do not feel bad. He needed this. Thursday evening arrived. I imagined Kyle sitting alone in our dark apartment, probably hungry, definitely scared. Part of me felt cruel. But a bigger part knew this was necessary. Sometimes, love looks like letting someone struggle. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is allow someone to face consequences. I went to bed early, my alarm set for 6 in the morning. Tomorrow, I would go home. Tomorrow, I would see if my son had finally learned what it meant to appreciate the people who love you. Friday morning, I woke before my alarm packed my bag and thanked Patricia for her hospitality. She hugged me tight. "You did good, Karen. That boy is going to be better for this." "I hope so," I whispered. The drive back to our apartment took 45 minutes. I pulled into the parking lot at exactly 10 o'clock in the morning and sat in my car for a moment, gathering my courage. What would I find when I went inside anger, resentment, or understanding? I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The apartment was dim curtains still drawn. Dirty dishes filled the sink. Trash overflowed. The place smelled stale. And there on the couch was Kyle. He looked terrible. His hair was greasy and unwashed. His eyes were red-rimmed. He had clearly not slept well. He stood up when he saw me, his mouth opening, closing, opening again. Then he ran to me and threw his arms around me, something he had not done since he was 12 years old. "Mom, I am so sorry. I am so sorry." I hugged him back, feeling tears spill down my own cheeks. "I needed you to understand, Kyle." "I do now," he said, his voice breaking. "I understand everything. The cooking, the cleaning, the bills, the work, all of it. I understand what you do for me, what you have always done for me." We stood there in the messy living room, holding each other, both of us crying. When we finally pulled apart, we sat down on the couch together. "Tell me about the last few days," I said gently. Kyle told me everything. The hunger, the fear about rent, the realization that he had no skills, no money, no way to take care of himself, the loneliness, the regret. "I sat in the dark last night," he said, "and I thought about every single thing you have done for me that I never noticed. The food that just appeared, the clean clothes, the bills that got paid, the rides everywhere, the money you spent on things I wanted. And I never said thank you, not once." "You said thank you sometimes," I corrected gently. He shook his head. "Not really, not the way I should have, not in a way that showed I understood how hard you worked." We talked for a long time, really talked the way we had not in years. I explained my finances to him in detail, showed him exactly how much money I made, and where every dollar went. Rent, utilities, food, car payment, insurance, medical bills. He stared at the numbers with growing horror. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you make it work?" "Very carefully," I said, "and with a lot of sacrifice." He was quiet for a moment. "Then I want to get a job. A real job. I want to help." I reached over and squeezed his hand. "That would mean a lot to me. And I will do chores. Whatever you need. Dishes, laundry, cleaning. I will learn how." I smiled through my tears. "Deal." Kyle looked at me seriously. "I said terrible things to you. Things I did not mean. About Dad being right to leave, about you being nothing. I did not mean any of it. You are everything. You are the only parent who stayed, who worked, who sacrificed, and I threw it in your face." "People say things they do not mean when they are angry," I said. "But yes, those words hurt. A lot." "I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you," he promised. Over the next few weeks, Kyle proved he meant it. He found a job at a local grocery store stocking shelves and working the register. It was not glamorous, but it was honest work. He brought home his first paycheck and handed me half of it for rent and groceries without me even asking. He learned to do his own laundry, though he turned a few whites pink in the process. He learned to cook simple meals. He took over taking out the trash and cleaning the bathroom. Our apartment became a partnership instead of a one-sided burden. But more than the practical changes, something fundamental shifted between us. Kyle started asking about my day. He noticed when I was tired and would make dinner without being asked. He thanked me for things, small things like washing his work uniform or picking up his favorite cereal at the store. One evening, about a month after I came back, Kyle found me sitting on the couch after a long shift. He sat down next to me and handed me a card. It was not my birthday, or Mother's Day, or any holiday. I opened it. Inside, in his messy handwriting, he had written, "Mom, thank you for never giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Thank you for teaching me what I needed to learn, even when it was hard. Thank you for everything you have done, everything you do, and everything you are. I see you now. I finally see you. Love, Kyle." I cried reading that card. Not tears of sadness this time, but tears of relief and joy and hope. My son had not been lost after all. He had just needed to find his way back. Now, months later, Kyle is enrolled in community college studying business. He still works part-time at the grocery store and contributes to our household expenses. He is not perfect. He still forgets to clean the bathroom sometimes, and he still plays too many video games. But he is trying, really trying, and he says thank you. Every single day he finds something to thank me for, and that means more than he will ever know. What I learned from all of this is that sometimes love means letting go. It means allowing the people we care about to struggle so they can grow. It means setting boundaries even when it hurts. I could have kept doing everything for Kyle forever, enabling his dependence and resentment. Instead, I gave him the gift of understanding. I let him see what life looked like without me. And in doing so, I helped him become the man he was meant to be. So if you are raising an ungrateful child or dealing with someone who does not appreciate your sacrifices, I want you to hear this. You are not wrong to set boundaries. You are not cruel to let people face consequences. Sometimes, the best gift you can give someone is the chance to see life without you. That is when they finally understand what you have been worth all along. Has anyone in your life ever taken you for granted? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real stories about family love and the lessons that change us. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the courage to stand up for yourself when you need to. Remember, you are valuable, you are important, and you deserve appreciation. Take care of yourself out there.